The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB at 7 minutes past 8. When we spoke to Dai Henwood last year, that was the first time, as it turned out, in a decade. So that wasn't good enough. So we are trying to make up for that and close the average gap between chats by some margin. Mind you, he has written a book, so that's helped the cause. And it's called The Life of Dai, and it's a brilliant book, as it turns out, and Dai Henwood is with us. Terrific to see you.
Oh, it's great to be back, Mike, and it is nice to shorten the gap. We're less than a year now. I love it.
Exactly. It was August of last year. Now, here's my first problem. So I go last week to channel 059 on my Sky remote.
Yes.
Which is, of course, the alternative commentary.
Yes.
And so I think I want to tune in to hear what some of the magic is. Here's my problem. It's R18 and you need your PIN. And I don't have a PIN. I don't know what my PIN is.
I have the exact same issue with my mum's Skybox. Yeah. I set a PIN when my father was alive, and that PIN is now gone.
So I couldn't get in to listen to you.
It's not even R18 though.
It says R18. It blocked me off from said R18. What is it you're doing that's R18?
Well, I don't know if there's ever been R18 rugby league coverage before. I think that's a precursor. Maybe they've seen the history of the ACC.
Is that what it is?
Because maybe the cricket's got a lot of gaps, right?
Right.
So the talk can go very tangential. But rugby league, it's all just straight up excitement, and we sort of bring a different flavour. And I suppose the only difference is we're completely one-eyed.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Warriors fans.
But I mean, if you look at the last game against the Dolphins, that was a good game, good win. And the Panthers before that. It's good game, good win.
The whole feeling about this club, I love this idea of the sort of next man up mentality where the whole club's behind it. You're seeing that guy Moala Graham Talfa, who was like the fifth string centre, and he came in and had a great game. It's just such a good feeling, and I actually reckon it was great that we rested. Had to do it through injury, but I thought Sean and Tohu looked a bit tired.
He's back
a bit of time off was good for them.
Sean's back this week. Yeah, there's something about Webster and the way he sort of corrals people. And the Aiden Whenua-Blake thing I always found fascinating because he's too good to stand down. And if I was coach, I wouldn't, because I want to win so badly. And yet you don't build a culture around team spirit unless you do exactly what Webster did. Yeah,
and that's a signal. It's a signal to these young guys who are coming through that, we have these standards. Yeah. You come to the team meeting. Also, I was just surprised by you just beat Penrith. Who wouldn't want to be in the changing room
that's the other thing, I suppose. Anyway, hey, listen, this is a very good book. And Jackie Brown did it with you, which I find interesting. Did you have a thing about not doing it yourself?
I didn't. First of all, there was sort of the opportunity for her to ghostwrite it in a way, but I wanted it to be more a collaborative experience. My whole process as a sort of comedian and public speaker has been I sort of talk and then leave it, whereas books are very digging in and going back and combing through it. So we did sort of a huge series of interviews, then she put it together, then I hopped into it and started editing and changing and adding what I wanted to add. And it just helped because Jackie knows how to put the structure of a book together, and I could just talk to her with crazy stories, my health side of things and my philosophies.
How much of it's you versus health? I know they intertwined eventually, but
they intertwine. The backstory is because I've had sort of such a long career in comedy, travelling the world and all that sort of carry on. I devote a lot of time to that and how I got into comedy. And then there's sort of the big segue from being public. Then I went straight back out onto stage doing comedy and trying to figure out how to sort of talk about it a bit. And it's about all a few of the wonderful crazy people who come out of the woodwork.
Did you think about that beforehand? Because the thing about going public is that's good or bad, what happens, isn't it? Everyone's got a story. Everybody wants to share it with you. And there must be a point where you go, as much as I love hearing this, I've had enough now.
The hardest thing is, especially with cancer, when people share a story, the chances of it ending well are very slim.
Yeah.
And everyone's journey is so different. And I was worried about it mainly because I've got kids and my wife's very private.
Exactly.
So I don't want them coming up and sort of unloading on them. But then the flip side of that is when I'm meeting people after gigs and that who are coming up who have either got a checkup because they've heard me talking, or what I've said has resonated with them and some tips I might have given them or whatever has helped, that
on balance, you're doing better.
On balance, it's so worth it.
Yeah, exactly. What's your experience with the health system, given that there are more people on strike today and the angst around the health system seems to be that the whole thing's broken and busted? When you go to somebody and they say, now we've got some cancer to deal with, how did the health system unfold for you?
I grew up as a New Zealander who had parents who didn't have insurance. The health system's great, right? Mind you, we'd never actually used it. so, and then the health system was great for my mother along heart issues, right? I think New Zealand health system's great. If you've got an emergency, you're chucked in a thing, you fly in. The skill sets are there. The doctors that you get in for private surgeries are often the same doctors, the surgeons that do the public surgeries. My experience was amazing. I bought health insurance at a barbecue a year before I was diagnosed, to a year and a half before I was diagnosed, which was just phenomenal, to be honest, because I was diagnosed at the beginning of COVID, so everything would have been delayed, but because I was in private, I could have surgeries and so forth. And my knowledge of the public health system is people going through it who are waiting 3 months because their scan results get shimmied round to the wrong places, and especially cancer-wise, if you're outside of Auckland, things can be very difficult. And then the whole drug debate, which I'm not deeply knowledgeable on, but I know the funding for various drugs or people wanting to repurpose drugs is so hard. And I don't think you can blame a government. I think it's just systematically been chipped away at.
It's intergenerational.
And because of that, it's impossible for, even if you give one government a few terms, I don't think you could actually fix it in that time because it needs so much money.
So a couple of things in the book. One, what was the treatment you were taking in pill form? The only reason I asked that is I didn't realise it came in pill form. Was it chemo or?
Yes, so when I was doing radiation on my bowel, and they give you pill form chemo, which you take twice a day, and it's not as hard out as injected chemo, but it builds up and builds up.
Right.
And you start getting like neuropathy in your fingers and so forth, which Dean Barker actually had when he was training for the America's Cup. And I couldn't imagine doing his job with it, because you've got to put gloves on to get your milk out of the fridge. Or so I was doing that combined with radiation. I was on tour with 7 Days Live, trying to just be out there talking rubbish with my friends, and then had this whole underlying thing going on. This was before it's public, and that was a real catalyst to go, I've just got to be honest about
100%.
this. You know?
Because without putting too fine a point out, you look perfectly well.
I'm ironically the healthiest I've been in my life.
Exactly.
I'm off the booze.
Exactly.
I'm eating well.
So it's not like somebody came to you at all and went, geez, you're not looking so good, Dai. Is there anything going on?
Yeah.
Because you do. You look absolutely fine.
I must say, what going public did for me was actually give me big faith in humanity. I was diagnosed at the beginning of COVID, right? Before vaccines and I suppose things got divisive. Right at the beginning, it was, we're all in a sleepover together. No one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I went into New World and then there was a guy in a full wetsuit with a snorkel. People were just dealing with it how they were dealing with it. And then when I went public, I do gigs all around the country, people, conservative, left-wing, everyone came out and was just like, hey, mate, we're behind you. And it was like, oh, actually, when you see people face to face, there are so many good humans around New Zealand, and it's been a joy sharing my story, and I just hope I can help people who need it. NED
is what? No
evidence of disease.
So I thought that was interesting too. So once you got to the point where you're not chasing a cure anymore, see, that on the surface sounds depressing. And yet for you not.
No, I got to a point where I was walking out of TVNZ. I just recorded a Have You Been Paying Attention show, Get a Ring. We've found so many spots in your lungs. It's incurable now. So you're in a palliative.
They tell you that on the phone?
Yeah, I've got a good relationship with my oncologist, and that sort of was so emotional to begin with.
I'm not surprised.
But I'd been just chasing this thing of clear scans for so long, and now I realised actually everyone has cancer cells in them every day, and your body just deals with it. So for me, I was just like, I've just got to get my tumour load low and not chase this thing. Like you said, I look good and I'm feeling good. Just enjoy that.
100%.
I think it's very hard to live in that sort of moment because of the nature we live in modern society, where you can constantly 5-year plan or look at your mistakes in the past. And now I'm just dialed in on actually trying to enjoy the moment.
How do your family handle it? Because I mean, what you've done I think is remarkable. Your ability to handle it's remarkable, but that's not for everybody. Have they handled it well? They must be inspired by seeing you go well. Yeah,
and I remember my wife saying that I'm probably the most driven person she's ever met. I am a driven person. I get that a lot from my mum. And it is hard for them because everyone deals with things differently. And it's a diagnosis for two. It's physically harder on me, but it's mentally just as hard on my wife. And especially, my kids were very young when I first got diagnosed, but now they're getting around 11 and that. They're getting a lot more aware of it. So talking to kids is hard because you want to go, what do you normally do? It's going to be fine, because generally it is. But with this, you've got to skirt around that because it might not be fine. So you've got to be honest but optimistic.
Good on you. Well, listen, I enjoyed it. It's a great book. Well done on that, and I hope that goes well for you. Mate. And we'll get you back. So we're down from 10 years to whatever, like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week.
Look forward to it.
Nice to see you. Dai Henwood. It is 8:22.
The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.